I've been looking over some of the comments which have been left, and there's one which was left just a short while ago by a person called Things Need to Change. I agree. I'm going to read it. To be fair, this is just more brutally honest. The Department of Defense has always been a very Orwellian term. The US is the most aggressive country there is, and frankly, there isn't much difference between if it's the Democrats or Republicans in charge. Both are very aggressive abroad. Also, I find it ludicrous how you buy all the Ukraine propaganda. It's clear that this war is about resources to anyone who has studied it in the most minimal depth. Well, I disagree, but anyway, thank you. 3 brisk answers. What a name signals what actually changed in the States, or actually better still, what changed in Britain, because we changed our name in 1964. And then I would come to what the Ukraine war is and is not. A rebrand can be candour or theatre. War on the tin may look honest. It may also be bluster. Either way, the word doesn't conjure ships, brigades, appropriations or alliances. Institutions and laws do that. Britain has had both plain and polished labels across the centuries, yet the constant has been civil authority over military power and a strategic culture shaped by our interests, our alliances and our resources. Britain didn't swap war for defence to tidy up language. We re-engineered how the state controls force. The key steps from the 17th to the 19th century, a secretary at war manages army administration. The War Office grows as the Army's civil department. The Admiralty runs the Navy. The Air Ministry joins the family in 1918 for the RAF. In 1940, Churchill created a Minister of Defence to coordinate strategy across the services during total war. In 1946, the Ministry of Defence Act gives the minister real heft across planning and resource. In 1957, the Sandys White Paper presses rationalisation in an age of nuclear weapons and tighter finances. In 1964, the decisive move, the Defence Transfer of Functions Act, consolidates the Admiralty, the War Office and the Air Ministry into a single Ministry of Defence under a Defence Council and a united budget. This is unification, not euphemism. It's unification, not simply a name change. This is very different to what Trump is doing in the Pentagon. So the 1964 change was about power and process. One purse, one set of priorities, one cabinet voice. It didn't turn Britain Pacific, it made Britain more coherent. It also didn't ease heritage. The old War Office on Whitehall, that Edwardian Baroque giant of 1906, with over 1,000 rooms and 2.5 miles of corridors, kept its history, even as it later hosted MOD functions. And within those walls, Haldane, Kitchener, Lloyd George, Churchill, Profumo, the Army Council argued and decided. T.E. Lawrence drafted for the geographical section. The SOE was conceived. Today the building is Raffles, London, but the story is intact. A nameplate didn't make that history, people and policy did. Is it time to copy the US, therefore, and rename our department because Washington fancies a new plaque on the Pentagon? No. Our minister's name sits on top of 61 years of unified control, parliamentary accountability and service culture built around joint planning. And changing defence to war here would not improve procurement, deterrence, readiness or alliance. It would simply cut against our own tradition for the sake of someone else's rhetoric. And you suggest that the US is the most aggressive country there is and the party labels change little. The United States has used force a great deal since 1945, that's true, sometimes wisely, sometimes disastrously. But 2 clarifications matter. Labels do not drive deployments. Interests, threats, alliances and domestic politics do. Even in Washington, law and institutions constrain action. Authorizations for the use of force, appropriations courts, interagency checks and allied consent. A rename does not add a brigade, it may add a speech. That is it. So all this is words and quite a lot of money to change the letterhead. So yes, judge America by its campaigns and its outcomes. Just do not mistake a signboard for a strategy. And you write that it's clear that this war is about resources to anyone who's studied it in the most minimal depth. With respect, a minimal depth is exactly the problem. Resources are always in the frame. Donbass, industry, ports, energy routes, and so on. But they are supporting factors, not the core cause. The core Facts are simple and stubborn. Russia used force to change borders in 2014 and again on a larger scale in 2022. And yes, Russia may be hungry for the resources that are in the Donbass region and the access which is from the Crimea. But Ukraine is a recognized state whose sovereignty and borders Russia pledged to respect in the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, and the invasion is justified by Moscow in terms of history, identity and control. That is about dominion, not mining rights. Though you're quite right, mining rights would come if Russia controlled all that area. If this was mainly a resource grab, one would expect negotiations built around concessions on assets and transit. What we see are claims about Ukraine's statehood, its language laws, its alliances, its very right to choose. Call it imperial nostalgia, call it strategic obsession with buffers. The essence is political, legal and moral. Economic sit alongside, not ahead. Oh, and by the way, I know a lot of people go on about the resources in Donbass. It's true, there are resources in Donbass. It's an industrial region. But Russia is huge. It's got resources of its own. And this desperation for resources attitude is a very blinkered idea from a very limited European approach. As for the Pentagon rebrand, Britain shouldn't follow that. The triumph of 1964 was a single budget and a single arbiter of priority, not a softer noun. The MOD's title signals what matters here, the defence of the realm under ministerial authority subject to Parliament. And our old War Office reminds us that Britain has waged wars, ended wars, and managed peace under many titles. We can be candid about force without romanticising it. If we want to improve performance, the questions are practical. Stockpiles, industrial base, recruitment and retention, readiness timelines, maritime lift, air defence depth, cyber resilience, nuclear stewardship, alliance integration, and the habit of strategy in Whitehall. None of that requires a new brass plaque. And a department called War can be prudent or reckless. A ministry called Defence can be lethargic or lethal. Britain's duty is not to mirror anyone else's mood music, but to keep our own house in order. Strategy first, structure second, branding last. After 61 years, the Ministry of Defence has earned its name. We need to improve its substance. Particularly, we need to think about the errors made in the last few years about Afghanistan. We need to improve all that rather than toy with some sort of signage.